Let's talk storylines for the upcoming Pacers season, year 3 of a recurring series where Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star and I break down what we believe to be the biggest things to monitor all season long for the Pacers. You'll get it all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, Dustin Dopirak, who covers the Pacers for the Indianapolis Star, is going to join us, and we are going to break down what we believe to be the biggest storylines concerning the Indiana Pacers for the coming season, from their play style to their young guards to their center position and so much more. And we review what we talked about last year, what we got right and wrong about the biggest storylines for the 2024-25 Pacers. Fun show, our third year in a row doing this, making it a series. Usually a lot of similar themes for this team, but very much different this year. Really fun conversation. Dustin's the best. Really excited for you guys to listen, and we can just get right to it. But before I tell you that, we had some tech issues. We recorded a different way. I hope it sounds and looks okay. Now, let's just get right to it. It has been 3 months since the finals somehow, and I haven't seen this person besides one time in that time, which is crazy. The season is upon us, and it's time for a yearly tradition here at Locked On Pacers of looking ahead at the biggest storylines to monitor for the Pacers and their coming season. And I can't do that alone. That'd be boring. Dustin Dopirak is here from the Indy Star. Dustin, sir, hello. How are you on our third try recording this, because technology is just the best?
It's hanging in there. It's been a good summer, and obviously you had a good weekend. We're gonna do this thing one more time, obviously. But look at Indiana football beating Illinois 63-10. What is this world coming to?
7-7. They gave a big play. Am I stressing? Yes. Should I have been? Absolutely not. I was actually in Champaign for the game. What a time. Kurt Signetti, the GOAT. I can't believe I'm more excited about football than basketball. What is life in the Hoosier-land? This didn't happen when you were there, Dustin.
No. They did not go. I covered Indiana football for 7 seasons, and they did not go to a bowl game in any one of those 7. So I covered the 83-20 game at Wisconsin. I covered 59-7 the following year. So I saw Bert Bielema just absolutely trash Indiana football teams. And there are absolutely some old IU fans that were very happy to see Bielema get his comeuppance after that one, I'm sure.
Him keeling over was a picture that many people enjoyed. Yes. So last year we did this, and the both years we've done this, they've been ascending as a team, trying to be better than the year before. Not that they're not trying to improve and have their young players improve. That will, I'm sure, be brought up today. But the difference is this year there is not an expectation of winning more games than the prior season, and their big storylines reflect that. But it's very interesting to look back on what we talked about last year, because I told you this before we started recording, we were not wrong. In fact, we were just very early. For example, clarity with young guys and what it means financially. Are these young guys actually starters? Is Ben Mathurin we talked a lot about Ben Mathurin every year we've done this, and we are again this time.
We will.
What does that mean for them financially? Well, guess what? Finances probably played a part in them losing a starter this offseason, and they got some but not enough clarity out of their young guys. You talked about Tyrese Haliburton. He had that rocky play with the hamstring injury after the in-season tournament. Is that going to be a thing his whole career? Is he going to look better to start the season? How about decidedly the opposite of that, Dustin? Extremely rocky start to last season. So right off the rip, we were early and still prescient with our thoughts last year.
Yeah, and an injury that we weren't expecting. We were talking about hamstrings and groins and everything in the sort of upper leg region, and it's a lower leg thing that has him all out all of this year, which certainly we couldn't have seen coming. But yeah, we were going through that discussion of, okay, this is a thing he's dealt with. He certainly didn't seem completely healthy going through the Olympics and everything, and seemed a little bit off at the start of last year. And obviously comes back to full health, ends up having a pretty good All-NBA season, beyond pretty good, spectacular playoffs until it ended in dramatically heartbreaking fashion.
Don't know what you're talking about. Yes, that did happen. That was terrible. So he will not be a focus this year. Clarity with young guys will be. But the ones that stood out to me as important last year that are once again important is one we talked for a long time about. I typed it down as one of our topics. What the hell is the future of center? because last year going into the season, I mean, I think there was more belief that they'd have some of these guys back. They have all three of Wiseman, Jackson, or excuse me, they have two of Wiseman and Jackson and Turner back. Not the two that I think people thought would be back.
Sure.
They were all on expiring contracts, and that ended up being a huge summer story for them, and will be something that certainly we talk about today. So what the hell is the future of center? I might just copy that one over for a year. We'll talk about that. And then two other key guys we talked about that are even more key this year is Pascal Siakam, saying and hoping he could be better. Check. That was a big part of them becoming a better team last year. And the evolution of Andrew Nembhard. Could he become more of a lead ball handler type? That was something we talked about last year, Dustin.
Yeah.
We were just early. We were just early.
Yeah, I mean, those things are forced. They're required now. I mean, I think interesting that those guys managed to get better without having to step outside of anything. Nembhard in particular, I mean, I think we talked about the likelihood of him scoring a whole lot more, and he didn't end up scoring a whole lot more, at least in the regular season. The playoffs, his numbers were phenomenal, but he was able to make a huge impact without making a dramatic turn in terms of what he did as far as scoring the basketball, but still got much better defensively, as good as he already was, and found, that, certainly very useful role as a secondary ball handler, kind of opening things up for Haliburton. Didn't do a ton for him scoring wise, but then obviously he was able to hit some big shots in this playoffs, just like he did in the previous one.
So last year, if you had to thematically describe everything besides the center thing, it was how many or who of these young guys will be better in a way that makes the Pacers better, because they basically ran it back. And then beside that, are the already good established players, will they either be more consistent or better? And what will that amount to in terms of wins? And they started god-awful for their first 25 games, and then were among the best 5 teams in the NBA for the next 7 months or whatever it was till their season ended. So certainly some rockiness to it, but they did get a lot of the answers to the stuff we talked about. And yet now, this year is so fascinating because of all that, because Tyrese Haliburton's not going to play, Miles Turner's not on their team. And so on one hand, it's you're going to, they're too good to be bad, to tank and be bad. So they're going to try to win with what they have. But it honestly feels like learning about their young guys is still a huge thing, maybe the number one thing now for the 4th year in a row with so many. And I don't know where you stand on this being the number one thing, or if one player is more important to you, because we spent a lot of time talking about Ben Mathurin every year we've done this. But I just kind of blanket for the coming season, have my top thing as, what are the Pacers going to learn about their young backcourt who's starting this year? With Nembhard, it's the same question. It's always been about being a lead ball handler. And with Mathurin, it's just everything, man. Clearly a good player, but this is a team that maybe doesn't quite, and we heard Rick Carlisle talk about it this summer, doesn't quite fit the style that he maybe thought would be there for himself in the NBA, and maybe he'll be awesome this year, and then what does that mean for his financial future? There's just so many clouds surrounding him, and that's not a bad thing. He could be awesome, and they would just pay him, and it's all great. But I would say that to me, right this second, before they play a single game, that is the biggest storyline of the season, is what did they learn, and what does it allow them to do in the win column about their young backcourt, who both have, for different reasons, lots of questions surrounding their upcoming year.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I think it dovetails with another one that I think is big. Is just, okay, how is this team going to stay the same in terms of its approach, and how is it going to try to adapt? And
I have that on my list. Yes. Yeah,
Mathurin is just sort of the fulcrum point for that. Because it's basically, all right, everybody else is kind of who they are. They were acquired, they're in the starting lineup because they fit what the Pacers want to do. Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, I guess to a lesser extent, but that's still true. Mathurin, it's a question of, okay, how much you're going to let Mathurin be Mathurin and fall into, I guess, what are just his general habits, and how much are you going to hold him to the standard of trying to be what he's supposed to be when Haliburton is on the court? Right. Because Haliburton's not going to be on the court. So he's still going to be coached to be that guy, to be the quick decision maker, to take quick shots, to keep the ball moving, or they're going to say, hey, for this team to be as good as it can be, he has to be allowed to be himself more often. He has to be allowed to, go try to cook guys in isolation, to slow the ball down and let it stop from time to time and cross guys up and drive at them. And, if he goes into crowds, you can live with that because he might draw a foul. Where does the balance of that look? And then what does that mean for going forward? What do you have to see to say he fits the future? Or is there, how much is there a rationale for just let him go get a whole bunch of buckets, put up a whole bunch of numbers, and let him walk? Like that, just say, hey, for Mathurin this year is make this team as good as it can be, and then let him go play someplace else where he's a better fit, and take that money and use it someplace else. He's just a fascinating point about what it's going to be, because I think I do think Carlisle still believes him and wants him to be a part of this. And so I think I don't think it's going to go all to one side, either way. And I will be interested to see of how to find a balance that makes sense. Because I think if Carlisle can keep him, he'd like to keep him. But I think to keep him, he'll have to show signs that he can fit when Haliburton plays. But I think for them to win, he has to be allowed to be himself sometimes. So I'm very intrigued as to how that's going to shake out.
Everybody, quick breaks. We can talk about Monarch Money. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on a table. That is why Monarch Money is there. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface right on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. They do the heavy lifting for you. You can link your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without touching a spreadsheet. You can identify where you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice investments that are poorly allocated or discover forgotten 401ks. You can maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, and review finances with a partner or financial advisor so you can keep a clear view of your financial health. Do not let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off. How about that? Your first year, 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. The question stylist, good to me, is not who cares, but just if they play a different way and he's awesome, does that matter? Because in some ways, yes, because if he's awesome, that is good. But they're not going to play that way one year from now, right? And exactly. I don't know how you feel, but if he takes strides at the stuff he's already good at, but not the stuff that would make him a better fit with the way they hope to play, then he's not going to start in 2 years either. Right. Exactly. So what is the right level of him showing obvious growth and improvement that is still the Pacers are perfect? That's the season we wanted. What does that actually look like versus the competing factor of hey, he's probably going to have to cook and do some of that kind of stuff for them to win this year, right? How many games did they win from March onward last year? It was oh, thank God for Ben Mathurin tonight. They would have lost without him, right? And they're going to probably have to play a little slower this year. So that kind of tug of war will be very revealing for him. But if he has a big game they won that game against Brooklyn in March. They won 2 in a row against Brooklyn. They stunk in both. And they've won the first one in overtime, and Mathurin had a bunch of points and a bunch of rebounds in the next game where Carlisle's that's great that he did that. We don't want to play that way, right? Yeah. So it's how many games like that are going to happen where Mathurin looks great, and then they're that doesn't matter to what we hope to do. And everybody can say, well, why is he saying that? Well, they made the freaking finals. Their style works. So that's what's interesting to me with him. And with Nembhard, it's the same thing it's always been, but this time it's trial by fire, not just 9 games of Haliburton missing in the season. It's all of them. The same thing as last year. He had over 10 assists per 100 possessions when he played without Haliburton, a little under 8 when they were together. He scored, I can't find his name on this list for some reason because I'm stupid, over 19 points per 100 possessions when he played without Haliburton, a little over 16 with him. He has shown that he can do more, but is it conference finals against Boston or that infamous Warriors game more, or is it much less than that? How does he look in the system? Can they play fast with him running the show? So both of them just have an endless amount of intrigue and questions to me this year.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Nembhard's I think his numbers are going to go up. It's a question of how much. I don't think he's going to average somewhere between 10 and 20 a game. Where is he going to be on that scale? I don't think he can't afford. He has been in many situations where he's been able to afford just not taking a lot of shots, where he's just facilitating, and a lot of what he's doing is just bringing the ball up and letting Tyrese run around so he can get space to operate. Run off a couple of screens and then get the ball in a sense where he's going downhill and the defense is already off balance in some way. Is someone's been screened or someone's here, or just they're in rotation or whatever. Like Nembhard's going to have to be the guy who's bringing the ball up, and he's going to have to be the guy who initiates. And that's going to lead. He's going to have to be the guy who's running pick and roll more often, and sometimes he's going to have to score in it. And so there's going to have to be buckets there. I mean, I think, like obviously this stuff doesn't matter, but I think you saw some good signs in that highlight reel video that Siakam the week. I mean, like his mid-range jumper looks good.
They certainly won the Orlando minicamp championship.
Yes, obviously. But yeah, no, I mean, I think he, it's going to go up. It's a question of percentage. It's a question of, like level of efficiency. He's just going to be asked to do a lot different than what he did for most of last year. So, I mean, it's going to be required. It's not going to be a thing that, he went into last season thinking that he was going to be more scoring oriented. And I'm sure part of what shook that off, its basis was, early in the season, he gets dinged up a little bit, starts to feel that knee tendonitis and sits out some games, and they kind of slowly brought him back, and Mathurin was still in the lineup at the time. And so it wasn't sort of on him to do as much. And basically when you've got Mathurin, Haliburton, and Turner and Siakam as the other four guys, someone has to not take shots. Honestly, right. Someone's going to have their that palate kind of come down, where he has kind of a natural fit of exactly how much offense he should be doing when it's, him and Nesmith and Haliburton and Siakam. And now it's going to be a different world, to kind of figure out where this works. I mean, he's certainly been this guy in the past, and with a kind of Mathurin, Nesmith, Siakam collection. And it's. He's had some games where he's been very aggressive and some games where he hasn't. I imagine it'll be similar to this, where you'll see some games where he goes and gets you 20, 25, and some games where, he only takes a handful of shots and he'll make the read based on, what the other team is giving him. So, I mean, you just need efficiency from him. I like the numbers will go up. I mean, again, he's not going to average 20 every night. He's not going to, do stuff like that. And he's not going to do dumb things, and forcing offense. But, like he's got to be able to put the ball in the bucket. They can't win if he doesn't score significantly.
The follow up to that is, one, can he do that while still guarding the elites? I think we've gotten a lot of breadcrumbs. The Pacers don't think he should be doing both of those things. And then part two would be, okay, in what ways does him getting better matter for next year, when he will presumably not be doing that role, and like he'll still have the ball, right? I just said he averaged 16 and 7 per 100 possessions playing next to Tyrese Haliburton. Like if that goes up a tick, that's great, because Tyrese Haliburton's probably not going to be the same in 2 years. Okay, give me your second/third, if you count that as two, major storyline for the season, Dustin.
Is the second one? I mean, is the second one overall style of play? I mean,
I think that's a huge one.
With the Mathurin, yeah. I mean, like, again, obviously Mathurin is such a fulcrum point of that, and that's so key. But I do think it's just a question of how do they, in what other ways do they feel like they have to adapt? I do think that, in terms of breadcrumbs, in terms of stuff you've seen him say on podcasts and whatnot, I do think Carlisle wants them to play closely to what they have. They are going to try to push. They are going to try to pressure. They're going to try to move the ball. That's going to be primary. It's a question of how much do they have to adapt? Right. How much do they have to be willing to settle for isolation opportunities at some point, and be prepared at what point in the clock do you kind of realize that put the ball in either Pascal or Mathurin's hands and tell them go make a play? At what point do you have to realize that, like, all right, you don't have them in scramble mode in the same way? Just the gravity that you lose with Haliburton is so big. I think. I mean, like even just some of the games he missed last year, you'd be like, when he was like, sizzling after the break, that stretch immediately after the break. I mean, he was getting two bodies on him going downhill all the time, and it was a kickback to Turner for like the most wide open of pick and pop threes. A J Huff, Andrew Nembhard pick and pop situation probably is not going to have that kind of
J Huff hater, I'm kidding. Never seen
Nembhard going at Huff and also Mathurin talking.
That was very funny.
That was hilarious.
Jay Sweetheart was very funny.
Jay Sweetheart was great. No, I mean, I think Huff's going to be really effective. I mean, I'm impressed by what I have.
Good style fit.
Yeah, absolutely great style fit. It's just he is not going to benefit from the same level of ball screen gravity
Right.
that Miles Turner did. And even though he's got some similar skill circumstance, basically skill set, I think it's going to be he's not going to be that wide open as Turner so often was when Haliburton would come down and two guys would go with him. So that kind of stuff is just going to make everything in terms of how the ball moves different. Because again, like a big part of that is just you're finding the open man, and there's an open man because there's two guys on somebody. And that makes it easier to move the ball around and find the guy that needs to get it. When you're able to single cover a lot, when you don't have to scramble as much, when you can trust guys to kind of stick with the guys that they have, you're able to play more sort of steady defense, not get in as much rotation, and so that offensive profile doesn't necessarily work as well. And I think you've seen in some cases where the second unit didn't have some scoring pop in it beyond McConnell and Toppin. They struggled to get to get anybody open because they didn't have the same level of gravity. And so I think that's the question, that level of adjustment. I mean, did they have to dial it up defensively in certain ways, even further than they already have? I mean, they have to try to win games at lower scores. I think is sort of among the overall question of how much does approach have to change? At what point does approach change? I think it can be play to play, shot clock to shot clock. I think they want to play as close to last year's team did as they can. It's a question of how much can they really do that, and at what point, and in what ways do they have to adapt?
And the answer to that might be like, what's this year really about? Right?
Yeah.
If you said this is the only season ever in the NBA, which it's obviously not.
Right.
Go win as many games as you can with this team. They would absolutely not play the same way they've been playing. Right? They would obviously change things. And I would say that if you gave Rick Carlisle this roster for 1 year, like they'd probably be a better defensive team than offensive team. Right. Yes. And so that's not what the Pacers ethos is. And they've been this fast, lead the league in passes, randomness team that like they can do all that. But that's probably not like the absolute number one best way to win for the roster they have for this one season. Right. But who cares? What matters is when their title window is or whatever window you want to call it is reopened when Haliburton returns. What can they do then? So how far away are they willing to stray in the name of winning and development in this one season versus being sharp at their habits? And you talked to Obi Toppin last week, and he talked about how their system was so important for what they do. Right? Like, I think they kind of realize they need to play that way still. But like, is that the best for Mathurin and his development this year? What does that mean for number one option Pascal Siakam, right? How does that change what they're going to do defensively? These are all fascinating questions to me. And I talked to Kyle Taylor about this on this podcast. We were like, I think that they should try. I personally, after talking to him, think the best thing to do would be play as similar as you can to what you used to do, but be like really wild with it. Like play lineups that are like, what are you doing? Or like give guys responsibilities that like didn't really make sense a year ago and throw them in the fire, right? Because that'll help them a lot if they have that experience in low pressure situations to really learn and get better. Because if you just drastically change your style for a year and then immediately go back to what you were doing, like that doesn't help anybody. Who cares if you win 43 games this year playing a totally different way? So how they play to maximize what they have versus what they'll need in 2 years will be extremely telling to me. Can we talk about? I
also think individually they're driven in such a way to keep playing this way for most of them. I think like
I agree.
The only guy that you look at and say, like he has to be changed to fit this is Mathurin. Like Aaron Nesmith is a product of the style. Like that's where he's at his best, is playing that way. Obi is playing that way. Siakam has bent his game in such a way that he can do whatever you want. I mean, and that obviously gives you a lot of kind of leeway here that, Siakam is really good when the ball's popping, and he's really good, when you get to an isolation situation, he's more efficient at doing that than Mathurin is. But Mathurin is wired in that way that he just wants to beat you one-on-one so bad. Also, quick question. When was the last time you think Ben Mathurin wore a shirt?
I don't know where he trained in the summer. If he went to Canada, it might have been too cold to avoid it.
All of the video we've seen, video or whatever, when he was in.
But this in practice and training camp, we're not going to see him in a shirt either.
No, exactly. He's not wearing a shirt until he has to. I imagine if you take him like to a restaurant, like you have to be very clear, like, man, this is one of those, like you have to wear a shirt here. Like
Pacers City Edition uniforms is just blank. There's nothing.
yeah.
It's a Mathurin kit that night.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think everybody else is wired to want to play this style. It works for Toppin. It works for Aaron Nesmith. It mostly works
for everybody.
Works for everybody. The only person it doesn't clearly work for is Mathurin, and it's still probably better for him to coach them that way, like get him that way. But you could, if you lean into Mathurin's instincts, you can end up changing the whole thing. And
yes.
There has to be a balance because I think you want him to succeed and want him to let him be him a little bit. You need somebody to create some gravity. You need somebody other than Siakam that people are going to want to defend. But he has to figure out how that fits, and that might just be having a totally different approach, or just him playing a different role in this than he has in the past.
Well, Rick, everybody, we got to talk about FanDuel. The NFL season is here. It's rolling. The Colts are awesome, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, for example, if you're a new customer on FanDuel, you want to hop in for the first time, you can bet just $5. If that first bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the app. How about that? Many people love using FanDuel for so many reasons. It fits how they like to bet, right? Player props, they got them. You want to jump in on live action that you're watching, you can do that. You want to build the same game parlay, you can do that. It makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, it's easy, it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Okay, we got to talk about, for the second year in a row, what the hell's going on at center?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so they have like two guys on like longer contracts. So like in theory, that's some stability, and they clearly want to try this James Wiseman thing. They brought him back. They've developed him. They loved his rehab. That's all great. What is this? Right? Is this actually the answer? Do they think right now they have their starter of the future, or are they just like, you guys figure this out for a year and we'll see how good this is, and we need to trade for someone else in the future? Who actually is starting from day one? I don't know. Right. I've like slightly tipped Isaiah Jackson all summer, but every time I think about it, I'm like, man, maybe J Huff does make more sense. Not that it's like huge importance. So like on one hand, I think Isaiah Jackson's decent to good. Last time he played in the playoffs against the Knicks and Celtics. Good job, Isaiah Jackson. You're clearly playoff caliber when you play. You also tore your Achilles, and your thing was athleticism and speed and being able to switch on defense. Can you still do that stuff at all? James Wiseman, you also just tore your Achilles. How good are these guys going to be? That's James Wiseman's second of his 5 NBA seasons where he played basically nothing, like torn meniscus season in that. And then J Huff, we already mentioned this, stylistically, theoretically good fit. Like gets some blocks, makes some threes, moves pretty well, does these funky backwards dunks that every time it'll happen, I'll go, haha, that was cool. That's fun. He's also played 95 total NBA games. Saying with any sort of certainty how good I think J Huff is going to be would be stupid, because the Pacers last season, just between the regular season and playoffs, played more than 95 games. J Huff has like very little experience. I think he's probably going to be like fine at worst, but I don't know. And so a key storyline of this season is, what the hell are these guys? And are any of them good enough to be a starter? And if not, who actually should be playing the most? Who can they get? What do they need? Because they just straight up lost someone at the position. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's comical to look at. Miles Turner's a year older than J Huff. Kind of look at his total total career stats. He's got 20 times what J Huff was in everything. It's absurd. It's nuts. Minutes, games, everything. It is wild, and he's a year older. And yeah, I think it is. You go out with. You almost have no expectations. I've been saying J Huff starter is a placeholder. If you ask, okay, who's your probable starters? I say J Huff, but I will have a totally different idea if I watch Isaiah Jackson for 10 minutes.
I agree.
I think it's I don't know. You don't know what Isaiah Jackson is right now. You don't know what James Wiseman is not right now. They do. We don't. We haven't, even what little we've seen in video of anything. The sort of stuff that we saw, on court last year, while they were in rehab, I think it's very minimal. I don't think either one of us have any sense of, oh, well, I mean, like if Isaiah Jackson is bouncy and fast and everything else as he was at the end of the playoffs in 2024, then he should start. I have a hard time imagining that Jay Huff is
And he
better.
knows the system.
But yeah, and he knows the system. He fits with the guys. It works. If he is that athletic, if he can jump like that, if he can run like that, then he's your guy. But I have no idea if he can jump like that and run like that. One thing was certainly noticeable to us toward the end of last year is he clearly put on a lot of weight. And I don't know if that's still there. I think just even seeing you see brief glimpses of him in that kind of highlight package. There was not a lot of focus on Isaiah Jackson either way. I think it stands to reason that it'd be like this. I think he ran a lot of that off, that once you just can't do cardio for so long, or any real cardio or cardio of the level that they're used to for so long. And then you get it back and then a lot of that stuff melts. And so it's a question of, okay, how much muscle stayed? I'm very interested to see in that. Does he have muscle that he got to keep from that whole situation, or was it just being out of shape because you can't do any cardio and then you get back into shape and it all goes away? I'm very interested to see how much that is. Like, I have no idea who Isaiah Jackson is right now. Don't have even less of a clue who James Wiseman is right now. Could either one of them be? But I think like if you watch them for like 20 minutes, you might say, okay, they're either all the way back or they're not there, and they could be the guy. But I think you at least have a sense of, all right, Jay Huff is going to hit pick and pop threes, block shots, run the floor reasonably well, not rebound that great. But he could at least be a functional starter. It's just a question of, are Jackson or Wiseman back to the point that they could be that yet? Or not?
You were there. Like, we saw Jahlil Okafor last year, who was freshly-ish returning from an Achilles, more so than these guys will be. And there were some possessions where it was like, oh. And there were very much other possessions where it was like, oh. And so
to me, especially the first time we watched him, there were times he didn't go up and down the court.
Right.
Like, it basically, like, if the play was moving too fast, he stopped and waited for it to come back to him. I was astounded by how good he was in the half court. He
was much slimmer. He was way slimmer.
Way slimmer. Looked, body looked great just looking at him. But then when the ball started going on the other side of the floor, it was like, not yet. And he got better with that apparently over time. I didn't watch a whole lot of Mad Ants last year, but I remember that first game was just like, there were plays he just did not follow because it was not worth it for him to try to run down the court. And he was being smart, but like did not have that up and down the floor explosion at all. So
we'll see what this means for their centers. And I don't know where you stand on this, but like every post Achilles guy of recent time in the NBA like did not play back-to-backs very often in their following season. So like Wiseman's going to play. Jackson's going to miss some of those 14, 13, however many they have. Centers get hurt a lot. Like, James Wiseman's going to play. He also won't be playing in back-to-backs, obviously, right? So there's going to be a chance for all these guys to do something, and who knows? Like, I have no idea what to expect at the 5, and I have no idea if any of these guys are starter level. And if they're not, they're going to have to get one because they need a good center when Tyrese Haliburton returns to the floor. What is your next / do you have any more big storylines that we haven't touched on?
I'm still interested in the growth of the other young guys. And I think the three, you kind of have these 3 second team wings, second unit wings right now in Shepherd, Walker and Furphy. I think, obviously you kind of know who Ben Shepherd is at this point. You can maybe let him rock a little bit more. But I think he's just, at the end of the day, he's going to be a guy that's just he's going to take the open ones and pass off otherwise. Walker, we're finally going to be in a position like what Walker has to play second.
Every game. A lot of minutes.
Play every game.
Is it possible to you, by the way, that like this big void of minutes and shots that are gone from Turner and Haliburton? Like, people are like, oh yeah, Ben Mathurin and Nembhard, like they played a lot last year. Like, they shot a lot last year. Like, it's very plausible to me that some of that is shifted to obviously whoever the new center is, but like goes to Jarris because he's going to be the maybe biggest beneficiary of like time, of real time.
You look at it like certainly how they actually rotate will be different, and we don't know how that's going to go. Obviously, last year you saw, Rick kind of rely on the idea of having Siakam play a lot of minutes with that second unit to make sure you had a real deal scorer with that group. And but there's going to be times when if it's just the second shift, you're going to need buckets from Walker. Like you're going to need one of those wings, whether it's Shepherd or Walker or whatever, to be able to get his own. And certainly McConnell and Obi can get you a bunch of production. You've seen that, but you could use some real scoring out of the wing, and Walker might have to be that guy. I mean, he might have to be aggressive in the basketball. He's shooting percentage went way up. He was take over 40% last year, which is wild to consider how far he's come in that regard.
One practice that you and I waited for forever will never, ever, ever be out of my brain, or the story of Jairus to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. When you saw just how much he was focusing on it, like we were there for like another 20 minutes or so, like waiting him shoot threes until he hit enough that he felt good about. And he's come so far. Yeah, I mean, he's come so far in that, and that's going to make a difference. So he's going to have to do that offensively. He's going to have to really guard people. They can't afford to not have a very protective Jarace Walker, even if he never starts, even if he never gets in the starting five. They need real stuff from him off the bench.
I have this as a sort of storyline also. What I just typed is the back end question mark, which to me was like, of this grouping, and some of these guys are guaranteed to play more than others, but of this grouping of Jarace Walker, Johnny Furphy, Ben Shepherd, Cam Jones, James Wiseman, the young shrugs. Not shrugs. We know what some of those guys are, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Of course.
Not as clear who they're going to be as players. What are you? Are any of you good enough that this rattles our decision making at this position, right? We're we really need this guy on the next great Pacers team. We have to have them. And I don't know that we'll get those answers on Cam Jones this year. I think he's definitely the least important to find out. But they're trying with Wiseman again. Every time Furphy gets any chance, it's interesting. But he hasn't gotten serious chances outside of one game in Brooklyn yet. Jarace and Shep have had good and bad moments in their career. What do they learn about that crew this year? That's because we could go through micro every single player and make up a storyline, but I would say that's a big picture thing. That's enough players. That's three if you just want to do the wings, or five shrug group players, that it's getting any sort of valuable data or intel on how good or not good they are is really important for decision making of your team going forward. And I think that will be valuable for them in a way that is actually meriting a full storyline, because I personally believe in a couple of these guys.
Yeah,
seen them play their whole career, that they're good rotation level players who could be more, but this is the perfect season and chance for them to prove that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, again, you see good things from Furphy. Probably right now, I think he ends up in this sort of Walker-ish.
Oh, I want to ask you something actually about this.
Yes.
What date of the calendar of this season do you think we both get our first, why aren't they playing Furphy over Shep or Walker or whoever tweet? Do we get to Thanksgiving? From a serious
November 15th. I'm going to say November 15th. That's what I hadn't, but before you said Thanksgiving, I had settled on mid-November.
Yeah.
No,
I'm a serious consumer, not someone who listened to the show and is I'm going to be so funny.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, and the question is, which one is it going to be? Is it going to be over Walker or over Shepherd?
Yeah.
Because I think I mean, right now I would say it's Shepherd and Walker have those jobs, and Furphy's kind of on the
totally 100%.
And it's just is it a case of Shepherd keeps doing Shepherd things, and you're like, doesn't Furphy have a little more juice there, or Walker doesn't produce? And that's, I think, going to be, and that'll certainly put the fan base in much different places. If 2 or 3 weeks pass to start the season, and maybe you get 10 or so games in, and you're not seeing the Jarace Walker that everybody intends to see, then there is going to be, I think, that, okay, where's the pull of a, rug out moment where it's, let lean toward Furphy over Walker. And that's going to be very interesting if and when
the
fan base gets there. Yeah,
I can't go ham scouting.
I wouldn't do it. I certainly look at Walker.
The guy I like both times, and they're both not that awesome. That would make me look bad, Dustin. I can't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, me too. I thought they were going to be. I was sure about where Jarace Walker. I was certain.
Yeah. Given the ranking of the players that I made myself, I would have picked Mathurin and Walker both in back-to-back years.
Same. 100%.
I still believe in both of them, but a big year for Jarace, whose skill set is very unique. And if I'm going to say about Huff, he's only played 95 games. We have no idea. Jarace Walker's played 108. We have no idea. And got a lot better after Christmas last year, and showed real consistency and pop in a postseason setting last year in a way that was obviously very much absent from his rookie season. So he and Shep are probably a little too proven to be in this group, but they're still just we'll see if they're in the mix, how permanent that basis is. Weird year. expectations are different. Young guys are more important. The storylines next year will be about turning what happens this year into success when Tyrese Haliburton is back on the floor. Dustin, this was great. Thank you for the time and fighting technological fun with me. I know most people already know this, but where can people find the things you will produce and make about the Pacers this year?
IndyStar.com. I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on Blue Sky and stuff like that. So you'll be able to find all that stuff. But yeah, IndyStar.com. Keep following, Chloe and Brian and everybody else who's covering the Fever as well. So, a lot of interesting stuff going on.
The Colts are interesting, Dustin. The Hoosiers are interesting. What a time.
And Cole Hawker's a 5,000 meter world champion.
Yeah, what is going on? If Butler is good this year, this is among the best calendar years, basically, since the men's All-Star game of Indiana sports ever. Like, undeniably.
Truth.
It's unbelievable.
Be up there. If the Colts really hang in there, and this is not a mirage, and it could be at least kind of a mirage,
This is a storyline in theory. It's not for the Pacers because they're probably not going to be as good this year, but it could be Pacers finals, Fever semifinals, good Colts, IU playoffs, and Notre Dame title game, Purdue basketball title game, all in one calendar year. A year and a half? That's insane.
Indiana's had a year, man. Indiana's had a year for sure.
No hoist of a trophy for it, but very exciting. Yes, follow Dustin and all the things he says. The only traveling beat guy covering this team. I'm so glad I'm so glad that that's still a thing happening in this market. Tomorrow on the show, we'll see, because stuff is actually happening this week in Pacerland, so I have to be very careful about how I schedule shows. But presume for now, Zion Brown's going to be here, and we're going to be talking about the Pacers. Really looking forward to that. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you very soon.